Hello, family. Family Wednesday. We are going to be rocking and rolling early today. We got a lot to get through. We're dying to get some resumes. We're gonna ask Nilu to share her resume. So Nilu, please be aware of that. We're gonna put people on the spot. We'll do our best to try and redact some information for people, and then feel free. Like if you really want your resume, just throw it into the chat. Anna's gonna be here shortly. She'll capture some of the resumes. We'll just kind of pick randomly and go through them. I do want to share my screen because I'd like to start these sessions with a little bit of help for the industry. So just to go through, I was just made aware yesterday, Binance is hiring a cryptocurrency investigator. Shocker, right? They're looking for more of a DeFi Ethereum tracer, someone that specializes in that. So if you are looking for that job, DM me on LinkedIn is the best way, and I'll put you in contact with my contact there. Unfortunately, yes, it's US based, but that's the name of the game. It's remote in the US though as well. So remember, they're not just looking for any crypto investigator, someone that's really deep into Ethereum and DeFi. Next, I just got this. This is hot off the press, airdropped exclusive. So it might be either a senior compliance manager-ish role or a junior BSA officer. Basically, what they need is someone that can do SAR writing, AML, BSA investigations. Although they have investigators, you might have to do some QA and QC work, and then you're going to have to really support their CCO with some of the like AML operations person. So someone that's very senior that wants to get their hands dirty, or someone that's fairly junior but can grow into that position. USA based, once again. We've already hired somebody for this organization last year, which is exciting because I know the person that we hired, they're amazing. So this is a great opportunity. I probably won't get to releasing this for a few days. So if you think this is you, please message me. And I feel bad for the people that just came in to the session. But once again, exclusive role that will probably be out within the next 3 days, US based, SAR filing, and this is an international legit exchange with some serious mentorship from the top down. And if you look through some of my posts today or comments today, you might be able to figure out who the organization is. Next, events. International Women's Day next Wednesday. We're going hard on events. TCAE is having an event, and you'll recognize one of our speakers there. Jinisha is going to be the moderator, a la carte. Several of the best professionals in the industry, Amber Scott, Hannah Zaidi, if I pronounce her name right, Barbara, who used to work at CoinForum, Amanda Wick, who used to work at Chainalysis, Lana, who worked at Dapper Labs, which is an NFT market platform, and now she's at Nota Bene or Nota Bene, Jennifer Arnold, like just the cream of the crop. Always a good conversation there. Next, in FinTech We Trust. This is with Gretchen Keller and Dana Lawrence. These are two amazing professionals, and they kind of have a community of both FinTech and crypto people. And even some of traditional finance are looking to be a little bit more innovative. Once again, it's a LinkedIn Live, really great place to network. And then yours truly, along with the International or the Association for Women in Crypto, we'll just have a social networking hour on a new platform. I guarantee this is going to be a good time. I just want to make sure I admit everyone in. I'm going to pop some of the links into the chat as well so you can go register. But this is definitely going to be a fun event with some of the industry's best. I'll be doing like a quick 10-minute kind of state of the union, and then we're just going to get straight into networking and Amanda Wick and her membership that includes like Carol Hells, Ayanna Murphy, like the best of the best are going to be there. And there's going to be giveaways, books. I will be giving away a Chainalysis certification access, and even professional association memberships, whether that's through TCAE, I think, or Association for Women in Crypto, which have amazing professionals, including men, like Ari Redboard is going to be there as well. So even if you're here and you're in the chat and you have the links, feel free to pop them in the chat. I know some of you are super, super helpful. So make sure that you make it out for International Women's Day. There's a ton of other virtual events, in-person events, but trust me, you want to make sure you make it to all three of those events. There's some other networking events as well that TCA is throwing out, one in person. Trust me, March is the time to get out there. If you're looking for a job, March is the best time, and you get to talk to some of the best in the industry. Awesome. Now, to get to where we are, we're going to start off with Jinisha. Jinisha, you're not a first-time caller. You've definitely been here before. Tell us a little bit about you, but more importantly, tell us what your thoughts about resumes in general.
Let me start with a question, everybody. Hi. How many seconds does it take to make a hiring decision? If you want to pop your answer in the chat. If you're submitting your resume to a job posting, how many seconds do you think a person is spending to review a resume?
Well, that's
6?
a good one.
Yeah. Awesome. Great answers, because we all understand how critical this document is if we are using this at all. So my story is that I was a very frustrated grad. This was a while ago. I don't want to age myself, but at least a decade ago. And I graduated with a degree in economics, and I wasn't getting any job that I consider challenging. So I did everything I could. I read all the books, and I actually wanted to know what works, which means I implemented what the books suggested, which included sometimes walking into the headquarters of a place like Rogers in Toronto on Bloor and Church and asking them why they rejected me and that they should reconsider their decision, and being kicked out by the security guards. And that's when I decided that resumes don't work. That a resume doesn't fully encapsulate me or my character or what I'm made of or what I can accomplish. And so I started using LinkedIn. So in a nutshell, I believe that resume alone just doesn't do you justice. And if you're not supplementing your job search with networking, with immense research on a company, on what it stands for, on the culture, on the people, like essentially I call it doing a PhD on the person who's going to interview me. And then submitting all of that in a beautifully formatted message email to actually get all the intel you need through informational calls, and then submitting your resume as a formality if need be. That's how I use my resumes. But when I do use my resumes, they are a piece of a marketing document. So it does answer in 10 seconds why I am the right person for the job. And I think that's something that needs to stay top of mind if we are to use a resume. Is this a static document that you use for 10 jobs, or is this a unique document that answers the fundamental question: what are the issues with hiring you? What can you do? Why are you the best person for this role? And if you're not the best person for this role, what have you done to bridge that gap in your skills and your experiences? And that's essentially how I approach a resume.
Yeah, great job. Like starting off the resume conversation with "we don't love resumes." And I think that goes across the board, is that we're not the average event people. We're not going to just sit here and say, this is how you do your resume. We're going to give you our real feedback. And as a recruiter, yeah, I'd say like 30 seconds. I'm looking for like maybe 10, 20 keywords, and then I'm moving on. I'm looking at recent experience. But Louie, who's a top recruiter, used to be at Chainalysis, now at LUKSO, technical recruiter, but definitely understands crypto immensely from a technical side, and super young, and built his brand off of being just an amazing recruiter and being very honest with his feedback. Louie, tell us a little bit about yourself and your feelings about resumes.
Yeah, super young for now, but time is catching up. I don't think you can answer the question. Like, I've spent sometimes 4 seconds reviewing a resume, and like I'll simply know where we want to hire, look at the location. If they haven't added anything around, potential relocation, it's just like, I don't know if this is worth my time, because the resume in itself maybe isn't the best as well. I think the right question is like, what is the response rate to applicants? And the truth is, it's extremely low. Like, I'm pretty sure the average is like 15%, but I don't think you'd even see a 15% response rate if you applied for 150 jobs. I also hate resumes. The truth is, I haven't, had a resume for like 3 or 4 years. I got my job at Chainalysis without one, as well as LUKSO. I think what you should try to do here is mitigate risk. And it's like, a resume it's it's never going to be able to summarize your experience in at least the way that you want it to. It's impossible. I think there's more such thing as like a social CV. And I know that everyone talks about a brand awareness and like, building yourself somewhat of a network. And they're kind of buzzwords. Nobody really tells you how to do this. And hopefully I can dive into what I've done myself. But ultimately, the resume that you'll be applying for a job with is probably never going to be perfect for the role. And if it is perfect for the role, I think you need to question, is this the right role for you? If you can do the job, then you probably shouldn't be applying for that job. If you really want to segregate and understand what job you want, you should probably instantly think about, hey, what jobs have tons of stuff that I don't have experience with, or at least, 50% of the requirements. And then from that presence, it's very easy to understand that you're probably not going to get a response. And with that said, I think there's way better ways to reach out to people, to speak to companies, have this social resume that I mentioned. And then from there, if they do want a resume, you've mitigated that risk, you know that they're interested, and you can make it way more personalized. So high level, I hate resumes. Hopefully we can try to find out better alternatives and have somewhat of a collaborative discussion on my experience and what I've actually done myself. As Stephen said, Louie, I'm based in London. Right now, I'm at an Ethereum conference in Denver, so my jet lag isn't too bad because I'm a bit of a night owl. So if anything, coming back in time zones is really nice. It's like, I'm up at 5 a.m. This is great. I wish I could do this in London. I've been a tech recruiter now for like 6 years. My first 3 years of my experience was at an agency where I was predominantly working on freelance roles in the UK. I then made the jump to another agency where I was working more with worldwide clients, predominantly in fintech. Somewhere along this time frame, I got very deep into blockchain and cryptography, and that rabbit hole took me down a way further route than just financial upside and trying to make money. It was like, I have to work in this industry. My life kind of depends on it. With that said, I reached out to somebody at Chainalysis called Hannah, who maybe some people may have known, Hannah Spellmeyer. I was there for 2 years. I was their first tech recruiter in Europe, and definitely not their last. I saw insane growth at Chainalysis and decided to take the jump as the first recruiter at LUKSO, with the co-founder of LUKSO being the author of ERC20. LUKSO was a company that I always wanted to join, and being an L1, a layer one, which is, EVM based, but not on mainnet. This kind of testnet phase and being able to see how L1s work before mainnet is very interesting and very hard to find. But yeah, that's kind of my opinion on resumes and a bit about me.
Awesome. So 3 people that do not believe in resumes, providing you feedback on your resumes. And I think the best unbiased opinion, we're actually going to start. We're going to jump right into it. Put your resume in the chat if you want. What I'll try to do is scroll down so I'm not giving away your guys' addresses, and I'll just say your name. That's the best thing I can do. But put it in the chat. Anna will collect them. We do have some people that may not be on the call, but we're going to prioritize the people that are here, whether it's your resume or your LinkedIn profile, because based on our panelists, we've gotten obviously reviews that your social activity, including your LinkedIn profile, needs to be just as good, if not better than your resume. All right. So I'm going to start with people that I like because they join our sessions. They're very active. We're going to start with Neza. And I know I'm pronouncing the name wrong. Neza Gordon. Neza, feel free to come off the chat, but it's hard because now I have to scroll through your resume. So this is the first page of your resume. You go through your qualifications, 9 years of experience, recently at Kraken, definitely caught up in the mass layoffs at Kraken. You've done some fraud investigations and compliance at Coinbase. This is page 2. You've done some regulatory stuff at Airbnb, which is actually kind of cool. I'm sure there's fun stories there. And then this is page 3. So you've been in financial crimes for definitely, close to 8 or 9 years here. And this is going on to page 4. And then that's kind of the end. So I'm going to quickly go, Louie, everyone's going to get like 1 minute to kind of go over, provide just high level feedback in the chat, keep it clean. But if you guys are like some things that stand out to you, we'd appreciate you just kind of either, if you don't feel comfortable putting it live in the chat, just message the person with a couple of ideas. There's people here that are employed, that are, working at exchanges. So any assistance that you can provide as well, I think will be useful. And whoever's submitting their resume in the chat, we're trying to be honest here, But remember, our opinion is very subjective, right? I could tell you do all these things, and Binance is like, well, you're not former law enforcement, so who cares? Your resume sucks anyway. So what we're providing is what we hope is useful feedback, but considering the market, it's just feedback, right? We can't give you exact. Louie, your thoughts on this resume?
Yeah, it's actually a really good looking resume. And I also like at the end, you haven't bothered to dive into what you was actually doing as an office specialist or a front-end supervisor. It's not necessarily relevant. So it's good that you haven't wasted space speaking about those roles, because sometimes that can very easily happen. At the top, your qualifications, I think that's the only thing that needs to be moved. I don't think there's anything wrong with like summarizing your experience and saying like, hey, I've been in this field now for 9 years. That is a qualification. You know, that's a heckload of experience. Change it to, maybe a decade of financial service experience. 9 years is a decade. So like it sounds a lot better. And I would maybe just put the qualifications down a little bit. For me, I will always scroll straight down to experience. And I think you also just need a bit more, personal brand awareness at the top of this CV resume, like your name, your LinkedIn profile, your email address, just like the general things that you need on a resume.
It is there. I just didn't scroll down, so we didn't show it, Louie. Just so you know, it is there. It is there. It is there.
But yeah, to a high level, I always scroll down to experience. And then after I maybe look at the experience, if I'm a bit confused, I will then go to qualifications. But the experience is what I want to see first.
Awesome. Jinisha? You're on mute.
Sorry. I agree with Louie. It looks beautiful. I love the colors. I love the use of negative space. Sometimes seeing too many words can be disorienting for the reader, so I like the white space. Now, this is my favorite part because I'm familiar with NASA's work at Kraken. I will say this does not necessarily do you justice. And that's the issue I find with many resumes, that they are skills driven, not accomplishment driven. I always see NASA as someone who actually started a program. She started an alert management program, and then she also worked with another individual whom she trained. And that is a leadership quality. And I don't see the word leadership. I don't see what you exactly accomplished in the first 2 bullet points under Kraken. And if we're talking about use of real estate, if I'm only spending 10 seconds, I need to know in 10 seconds exactly what you accomplished. You also did some QA and QC, if I remember correctly. That puts you in a managerial role in your next potential opportunity, right? So I would say those are the keywords missing. But overall, and this is my general feedback for any resume, does this really answer the question for the next job? Like, is this person going to be able to do that specific job, and not what has the person done in the past 9 years? So this could be a generic resume, but for your next application, maybe we need something that only answers that question, right? Like how is this person going to demonstrate that she could do that job and not everything else? Okay.
I love that, Jinisha. And I was first, I think just too long. I don't think anyone's reading 4 pages. And to Janisha's point, like, and I've spoken to you as well, Neza, like, you're strong in a lot of areas. Like, you should be highlighting those, what I call dragon slaying stories, right? Like, you're always going to hear me talk that I was part of working groups or public-private partnerships with Interpol and FinTrack and FinCEN, because I know not a lot of people will be able to say that. And that's what I would be including in my qualifications. Some of those dragon slaying stories that nobody else, like, I can't say that I built a program, etc. That's something you can say. That should definitely be in there. I just think of what is everyone else not doing that I can put in there. Not everyone's a multitasker, everyone's results. I only have to look at your resume and I know multitasker, detail-oriented is there, great communication skills, Microsoft Office. I'm guaranteeing those words are there. So if recruiters they know what's going to be there. You obviously have to be a multitasker if you're working in crypto. You do not need to include that in the resume. So I would, if you're going to use the qualifications, to Louie's point, I like the qualifications if you have no crypto experience and you want to jam the qualifications with taking this course or attended these conferences or took this crypto training. That's what I would do if I don't have any crypto experience. I want their eyes to go to anything that has to do with crypto in that top section before they get to my experience. But to Louie's point, if you have experience, you might as well jack that thing right to the top and make sure that's the first thing they see. So I really hope that was useful. Thank you, Neza, for being a guinea pig. Anna, do you want to send me another one? Or I can pull. I might be able to pull, but.
Hi, send me again, Steven.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I was gonna say, can you send me another one? But I'll just pull. I saw someone come through. Let me see.
I really loved it, what you said. Actually make the CV in a way that your skills for the specific job is the first thing that we see. I really like that.
Sorry that you guys get to see all my inbox and all the fun things I'm working on. All right, we had William in here. William, you're okay with this? I think you're on screen, right? I think it's too late now to say no. You're good. All right.
Okay,
here's William's resume. It's okay. I just pulled up Williams, but pull up somebody else. I think Tamina's in there. Maybe pull up Tamina so I have it. So William, here's your first page. Experience, current roles. I like accomplishments. I like that. Scrolling to second page. You know I like this. 2 pages in and out. You know I like this one. And just to give some people advice, I feel like, and Louie, you might be able to comment on that. I feel like I've seen North American and European resumes and they differ so much. I feel Europeans and other countries like to include languages, like to include certain things, like even their pictures sometimes. Louie, why don't you maybe answer that question and then let me know what your thoughts are on the resume.
I think this is like amazing. I think this is the biggest testament possible to like trying to emphasize soft skills on a resume is redundant and pointless. Like a resume isn't to understand how a person thinks and works, it's to understand their accomplishments and what they've done over their career. Like the other components will come during the process. Like if you want to get your foot in the door, don't emphasize that you're extremely detail orientated, that you're really organized, emphasize how good you are. Like there's nothing wrong with having ego to get a job. I genuinely think that this is phenomenal. To Stephen's point, I noticed it in Europe. It's way more bullet pointed, way more direct. It's a bit of like maybe a bit more Western to try to emphasize who you are, like what job you've been doing. And it's very, European to just be like, this is what I've done. These are my accomplishments. I don't think I've ever seen like the synopsis of someone's job broke down into responsibilities and accomplishments, like ever.
I love that.
Mainly because I work with a lot of engineers. Like this is such a great resume. And like the resume that we saw before this has enough weight to look the exact same. Like the person before should really like just mirror the format of this. Almost like, this
so everyone download William's resume and template. He put it in Word, so template that. Honestly, that's what I did when I go. Basically, that's what everyone on, and Anna can attest to this. That's what everyone on LinkedIn is asking for us. Pretty much anyway. Like, send me your resume so I can copy the template. I'm going to go first and I'll let Jinisha finish off. I have very little to say, but I can, like, if you look at this resume in 2 seconds, I know that William is a sanctions specialist. So with the crypto market, like I see OFAC constantly, sanctioned, block reporting. Like, I think that's so important. If you have a niche that you're really good at, especially if you're going into fintech or crypto, highlight that niche because and only the people that are really great hiring managers or recruiters will see that niche, right? Those are the words that they're looking for, not just sanctions. Tell me what kind of sanctions, the block property reports. Like those are things, if you're in the industry, you know that they need to have those skills. And William, I think you did a really good job. And I love that you broke it up because if I really don't care about your roles and responsibilities, I don't have to read through 10 bullet points. I can just go straight to your accomplishments and see what those are. And then if I really need to know what your roles and responsibilities are, I can go back up and look at them. Yeah, to Jinisha, to Louie's point, I've never seen this done before, and it's just so much easier to read.
Yeah, I'd agree. I love that you give me so many shortcuts. If I have 10 seconds, I know exactly what you accomplished. I love one piece. If you go to the bottom, William highlighted his language skills. That directly addresses the second question recruiters ask. Do you speak any other languages, or have you worked in other regions? Are you familiar with other jurisdictions? And this is so important, especially when you're dealing with sanctions, Russian proficiency. So great job. I'd even maybe put it at the top if you are applying to a global exchange, for example. If you go back to page 1, Stephen, my favorite sentence here is was promoted to manager within 6 months. That really shows what happened and addresses a few questions, like, did you switch positions? Why did you switch so frequently? And also, just the duration bit is very important. I would add just some more quantitative accomplishments that would address the next job that you might be applying for, like how many people did you manage for example? How many departments were you dealing with? Was there any cross-functional training or decision-making involved? Because if you're a manager, I'd imagine the next frontier for you is to either be a senior manager or even look into like a compliance head, right, for a smaller organization. So how do we address that question? Like, can you handle an entire compliance function? We talk about people, we talk about strategic, going beyond the operational, and now the strategic, that could be your next frontier. William has a question. Would it be negative if I've only managed a small team? Well, no. It depends. No, I would think it depends. Go on, Stephen.
No, I was like, most people haven't managed any team. Most people have a title of manager working at banks and crypto. They've never managed anyone. They've only managed cases. So I think being confident in the fact that you managed anyone and not downplaying it like, oh, I only managed 2 people, just talk very broadly about, I managed these 2 people. I was able to mentor other people. Like, you can encompass more than just the people that you manage. You were able to bring together or work with other business units, which is so important when getting into crypto.
I
also want to say that you might want to be a bit conscious whether that's actually worth noting. William, to some recruiters, as soon as they see that kind of managerial experience and that you've been a leader, they might instantly be like, this job is too junior for William. I think it really depends on what you're looking for, and also really what you want to do. As soon as I see that kind of managerial experience, my assumption being that they put it on their resume is that they would like to, progressively move, kind of upwards in terms of how many people they're managing, whether they're managing managers or ICs. Or make at least a lateral move. So I think Stephen is right, like, and Jinisha, like, that's an amazing experience. But I do think you need to ask yourself, why would you put it on there at the same time?
That's awesome. And we'll finish off. Anna, anything to add?
Yes, I would say that if you manage a small team, what does it mean? Why do you manage a small team? Maybe it's because it's a startup. Working in a startup has a lot more challenges than working in a big entity where everything there is okay, there are policies, there are procedures, everything is in place. When it's a startup, you need to create from the beginning all these things. So I have worked in a large organization with readily available policies, and I've worked in a startup. So if that's the reason that you were only managing a small team, it's not necessarily a disadvantage.
Awesome. And William, if you are in the market, reach out to us, send me a DM after. Because I think you'd have great opportunities for certain roles, especially that OFAC stuff. Binance is like pretty much hiring every sanctions expert there is in the country. And we're going to move on. Thank you so much. I love this event, by the way. I love just being able to riff with people about other people's resumes, because I think there's just a wealth of knowledge, especially if you're too shy to share your own resume. I'm sure a lot of the resumes look alike, so you're probably getting a wealth of knowledge. We are going to jump to LinkedIn, and we'll just scroll. Neha, I believe that's how you pronounce her name. Neha Gupta has her MBA, CAMS. So looks like she's a fraud prevention agent. We'll scroll down to her about section. So she does talk a little bit about passions, some maybe highlights from her work experience. And she's currently working as a fraud prevention agent. I like that she put precious metals, CIBC. She's currently on a contract. And you know where I'm going. Take a quick look at their activities. What she's posting, articles, documents, etc. All right, Jinisha, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts? Any feedback?
Absolutely. I love that there is a profile picture. So let's start with the top. I would say LinkedIn is all about telling us who you are, about your personality, as if I'm already interviewing you. And LinkedIn should address this question: who is this person? Is she fun to work with? So maybe using a banner would tell me what you like, what your hobbies are, what you believe in. Do you have meetings with people, or are you a car fanatic? Scrolling down further to the summary section, I think this is the real piece of real estate that I was referring to. I've worked on over 100 LinkedIn summaries for my clients in the past when I used to be an executive brand consultant. And back in the day, we would write like a second person narrative. So we would say, Ms. Gupta is or has 7 years of experience, and things change, especially in the compliance industry. We have the liberty to be very personal here and actually write a story, right? Write a paragraph and tell us who you are. And to me, this reads beautifully. It tells me what you can accomplish, but it also sounds like a bit like your resume. So I would just add, more about yourself here. And it may be in a nutshell, almost like an executive summary, almost like a pitch, like an elevator pitch, like where do you want to go? And even address a question, how can I help you get there? Like, hey, DM me, I'm free to connect. Here's my email, here's my website, whatever. Same thing with experiences as a resume. I would add more accomplishment-driven points here. And you can, and even add like supplementary, I call it demonstration or proof of concept. You can add certificates specific to CIBC if you've participated somewhere, like where are the photos of you public speaking, or if you really want to think about fraud and that's what you want to specialize in, are there any articles that you wrote on the subject? And I like that Stephen looked at the activity. I think about what people are looking at on my profile, and I know that recruiters do respond to me when I write articles. And I know they like the content before they message me. So we do know that there is some reception that, when you're engaging. Sometimes people have commented on my comments on third parties' posts, and they've enjoyed the comments and reached out. So that in a nutshell is what I'd focus on.
Awesome. Louie?
Yeah, I mean, my opinion here is different. And like
we love that.
I think your LinkedIn profile is great. And at the same token, I also think there's probably some that I can learn from Jinisha. Nobody here is perfect and no one knows the answer. Otherwise, none of us would probably be on this call. But ultimately, I don't think that it's needed to have all of those qualifications next to your name. This is super controversial. And I also want to flag, being a European, maybe this is a bit different from my perspective. There's a few different kind of twangs in a resume that are ones that you need to look for and ones that if you see, it's a big bonus. Like going back to the languages from William, in my opinion, a language is something that if I find is a bit of a bonus, especially being like an English first business, which LUKSO are, and I think maybe a lot of the companies where we may work. If I then see that you speak multiple languages, that's great, but it's not like a necessity. These kind of qualifications would be something that I would look for if I was looking for someone of this nature. And I know that it's right at the top, that makes it so much easier, but being next to your name may not be needed. I would maybe try to find a way to summarize your job title and then put these qualifications next to your title, just so it's just a bit cleaner at the top. I think the banner is completely true. I think the banner is like a place where you can just try to become a bit more personal and a bit creative, even if it's one of the company where you're working, or just really anything that you're interested in. Like a banner is so important, and one of the first things that someone will see. Scrolling down, if that's okay, Stephen. I think something that's really, really important is activity, like extremely important. And if somebody is just like reposting, it may give me feelings like this person isn't as, enthusiastic as what they may come across from their resume. Someone that is enthusiastic is writing Medium blogs or constantly talking about their passion or even just their life experiences. With that said, I would recommend for you to maybe spend some time on like 2 to 3 really good LinkedIn posts. Maybe you already have some which are just a bit further down your feed, and I would pin them to your profile. If you go to my profile, I always have a few things pinned. I have the job where I'm currently working, and then I always have like 2 additional ones, like the announcements of where I am, and then I will always find something else to add on to the pin. So instead of Stephen looking at your activity, he will probably most likely just look at my featured post. And then from there, he will get an understanding of what I'm talking about. Other than that, I think my opinion on emphasizing who you are as a person and your soft skills, it translates for me from LinkedIn and to resumes. I don't think it's overly important. Looking at myself as a recruiter, I won't be working next to this person. Maybe I would be, but for the majority of things, I won't. And whilst I care a lot about the culture of where I work and who we bring in, what I really care about is value adds. And what I want to see is what kind of value add this person can bring, whether it's in this role or maybe even one that isn't live right now. I would really never press the about. Also looking at this from a recruiter's perspective who has a LinkedIn recruiter account, it is way easier just to filter through experience and not filter through their about. So I would heavily recommend to spend a lot more time just with some really great bullet points on your jobs. Even use Williams' format of responsibilities and accomplishments. I think that's so amazing and can really, really help. But yeah, that's my opinion.
I love that. And I don't want to hit back on any points like banner, definitely. I'm going to say professional picture. There's no excuse now to not have a professional headshot or a fun picture of yourself. You can do it super cheap. If you're in Canada, go to Magenta, cost $25 to get a digital picture, and just sit there through 45 minutes of them selling you a $300 photo package. Get your $25 picture, post it on LinkedIn. There's events that you can go to that they do headshots at the events. There's friends that have really great iPhones. There's no excuse not to have a really good looking, strong picture. Not to say that's all a good looking picture, but it looks like, ceiling tiles in the background. You want to put your best foot forward. And people are going to think hey, if this person's not that serious about the picture, are they serious about other things? I agree. You can remove the cams, the MBA stuff, because if people want to tag you and stuff, it's just a lot to tag you in because that whole thing has to be tagged. Honestly, if you have limited experience, I don't like the way you have your headline with all these different things included. And then I go down to your experience and it's okay, you just have a 2-year job. I'm not saying that you can't include it. I included in mine, but then it goes back to your activity. If you're not doing a lot and you don't have much experience, why is your headline section, almost longer than your experience section? I think this is a good place to maybe highlight whether some of the really good skills you have. So, I provide the best fraud detecting services in Canada, something catchy that you can create. And then, I don't think anyone really cares about these certificate completions, to be quite honest. I could be wrong and biased there, but I'd much rather, as Louie said, to see some really strong posts that you have there featured. And then the activity section. About, I don't think anyone's really reading the about, but the people that do read it, if you have a really good about page, it does build some really strong connections. They see themselves in that, especially if you have something interesting. Anna, why don't you are a LinkedIn pro, you've gained 20,000 followers from just posting, and I'm going to go to your profile. Anything that you want to add there? Yeah, put you on the spot.
I like bullet points. It's much more easier to read. So if I would do something to Neha's profile, I would add some bullet points. For me, I just love them.
Awesome. And this is a good example of Anna's profile. She's going to highlight her obviously banger posts that she makes, her newsletter. There's a ton of ways that you can engage with. There's no confusion as to why she has 20,000 followers in 3 seconds of looking at her profile. And I think that's extremely important. Awesome. I'm going to go through and I know...
Check my about section and let me know if I can improve it.
Where's your about section? See, people aren't even going to get to your about section because, I have a very similar one. Nobody's reading that. But nobody's reading that. Nobody, to be quite honest, nobody's barely even reading. I don't even think people read posts, right? They just like it and share it, and they want to be part of the conversation. And it's great that you're putting out education, all of us. But the people barely reading posts these days, to be quite honest. All right, I'm gonna pull Tamina's resume, unless you guys have something to add in the meantime.
So you're telling me that nobody reads my content?
No. I mean, when I see like 80-page carousels, I'm like, I'm gonna read to about page 6. After that, you're gonna have to send me the Audible. But no, you have great. Those are so quick and concise. But I see people like writing these huge newsletters with all this information. I'm just like, unless you cut it up. Do you ever read the peer recommendations on LinkedIn profiles? Great question, Louie. You ever reading the recommendations section? You do read them?
Yeah, I do. Very frequently. It wouldn't be like a preliminary thing that I would do.
Yeah.
But like after on sites, maybe off a stage, 100%.
I love that. Jinisha, you read them too?
Absolutely. That's the second thing I read after the after the summary. I mean, that's demonstration, right, of skills. And even if a lot of recommendations read like they were written by the person themselves, by the candidate themselves, I still think that demonstrates that they have tried very hard to create a complete LinkedIn profile.
And now people are like in the comments ready to tear me apart. I didn't say that nobody reads Anna's posts. I was just making a general assumption that people aren't reading the about section and the posts as much as we'd love to believe. And the recommendations, I look for a couple key people. Like if they have someone interesting in the recommendations, I think is always good. There you go, Anna. You got to improve. All right, we got Tamina's resume, I believe. I'll just double check quickly. Tamina's resume. Page 1. Page 2. And that's it. Page 1 and page 2. Louie, hit us up.
I think emotionally speaking, if I look at a resume and I'm just overwhelmed, there needs to be some work done. And like I really want to emphasize here, like this is a great resume. Like there's so much stuff on here. And like I really want to make sure that you understand this is very subjective. I genuinely believe that when you've got maybe like 6 years experience or less, it's kind of, you should probably emphasize a bit more. If you were like, 20 years in your career, like this like career summary is amazing. But the truth is, once I look at this resume, I look at the career summary, there may be a chance that I read something on here and I go, okay, you're not good for this job, whilst you actually could be. I actually think that you're staggering people really diving into your experience by this career summary. And if it was me, I would probably just delete it. With your experience, you have really well bullet pointed underneath this. I will, this is like a page worth of reading. And I think this actually looks really good as well. I would remove earlier career, like for me, just not relevant. If you don't think that job is relevant, then just delete the whole thing, or just only keep the title and the times that you were there. But like, I would completely shift this around. I think core skills is really great. Project management is really cool. I would get rid of the summary of yourself. I would get rid of the career summary. And like, I would go straight into, I think core skills, project management is great at the top, and then experience. And then I wouldn't have earlier career as well. But yeah, I mean, I think like if you just step away and go back and think, am I overwhelmed? Does this CV give me kind of like anxiety to even look at? Like you need to just think about taking things away. Like one of the biggest learning curves I had to make in my career is that less words is more. I'm someone that speaks a lot. Especially 6 years ago when I started, I would write a message which could be so simple, and I would spend, like half an hour writing multiple sentences. And now after I put together anything which is, remotely important, I will always just ask myself, what can I delete? And I think there's quite a bit in here that can just go.
I love that. Great advice. Jinisha?
So right off the bat, Tamina, I think you are a beautiful thinker. You are someone who has complex thought processes, and sometimes you have a verbal diarrhea like I do and Louie does, right? You can be long-winded in a conversation. you've demonstrated through this resume that you would be a great conversationalist. But to a person who doesn't have time to sift through the whole resume to figure out what you can actually accomplish, this is very hard. So I'll just give you a thought process. What this is not a targeted resume, but one you will send to a branding professional, someone who's designing a resume, so then they can take all the pieces, all the best pieces to make a targeted resume. What a targeted resume is something that follows a specific job. So if you're applying for, say, a deputy manager job and the project is to deploy LexisNexis risk solutions, that's when you will put that bullet point right at the top and you'd highlight that. And how would you know that they need to do that? That's where the research comes in. That's where the informational interviews come in. That's where you read a whole bunch of articles on the company you're applying to and talk to 50 people who work there. So that's what a targeted resume needs to be. In this instance, there are so many, if you just read it, let's reverse engineer, let's try to test drive your resume and see, does this particular sentence add value? I think Louie probably pointed to that earlier, like the end of the first paragraph, second paragraph, key achievements, it says, moreover, it allowed steps, guidance, and improved compliance culture. So I think you were saying that this is what you want to talk about in an interview, but a resume is just key achievements. I think that's the key word, achievements. What have you accomplished? And is that enough for me to know that I want to interview you? Everything else Louie said, I agree with. The core skills and the project management, all of that looks great. We just need more white space and more of an emphasis on your accomplishments.
Yeah, if it was tough for you to write, it's even tougher to read. Like if that was a lot for you to write in that first one, then you know how difficult it is for someone. Nobody would ever, to be quite honest, I think, and I'm being very biased here, if I get that resume, I'm not reading it. And to me, that for someone that's actually talked to you, it's doing you a complete disservice because you're just such an amazing thinker, as Jinisha said. So I would completely, we have some resume writers through our connections with Lama Yunus, who's a career coach. TCAE, who moved their event today generously, is having an event, I think March 7th, so next Tuesday. And I think I have the link somewhere there in some of the TCAE events, if you could pop it in, where they're bringing in a resume there, Clementine Crooks. She's actually, I've talked to her too. She's really good. I would spend, the $300-400 because that's definitely just a waste of all your amazing talents. All right, we're going to quickly go into... and I know we're getting short on time. We're going to go as fast as possible, but that's just life. And maybe what we can do is I can pull one of you, maybe Louie or Jinisha Friday. We'll do a LinkedIn Live, go through some of the ones that we didn't get a chance to. So that way it's recorded and you guys or girls can tune in. All right. It's always saying Zoom thing. All right. So we have Olayinka. Almost very similar to Nihaz, I think, from like a construction point of view. The about section, which is very precise. Crypto experience, traditional experience. This is great extracurricular activity there with TCAE, and then goes into like larger banking experience at university. So Louie, maybe anything else that you would say other than, because it's very actually similar to Nihaz. So anything else that you would add on top of what we've already said?
Yeah, I think definitely take the advice that we gave to Nina. I actually really like how you can see the skills underneath all of your jobs. That's something that you don't see a lot. And like, while some of them could be a bit generic and, skills that a lot of people may have, or at least give a perception of having, it's actually really nice. I think just like, I love bullet points like Anna, like I really love bullet points. Just like go for 3 to 4 bullet points in every job. You don't have to do it for maybe the ones which are like, more than 6 years old or 5 years old, but this experience is really good. Like, I love how it's so clear. The titles are so easy to read. You're just missing bullet points. And that's it. They can be like super egotistical, accomplished driven, just something for someone to look at and go, okay, this is exactly what they've done at, or doing at, Chipper Cash. Super easy bullet points.
Jinisha or Anna, anything to add?
Yeah, I maybe because Women's Day is right ahead of us, I feel I want to tell a lot of women that we often do ourselves a disservice by not talking about our accomplishments. And I know this is a message that comes up every Women's Day, every panel I'm on. So I know Ola Inc has done some great work with TCAE, and I'm just missing the facts that I know are so valuable. Like, how many people did you mentor? What kind of programs did you build? And as a person of color, why was that so important to you? All of that, like where your leadership skills really could be demonstrated here, and that you are manager material, right? And I know that, but the profile could speak to that.
Yeah, it's great. I love the profile pic. And yeah, to your point, I think we need to, women, men, we need to start, as Louis said, we got to get a little bit more ego. We got to get a little bit more sway and start putting out. If you taught something at TCA in the study group, clip a screenshot of you teaching, or of there being 5, 6, 10 people on a call with a quick little description that people can go maybe to the post that TCA made about you being a part of it. There's so many ways to hack the system and make everything that you do seem like a big deal. But yeah, and Oli and Kai, I feel like we know each other somewhat. So it's always hard when I know the people that I'm talking to and I look at your resume or I look at your LinkedIn. I'm just like, oh man, like if people knew you the way I do, you would crush it. But you're not going to get those opportunities to kind of connect people on an individual level. Awesome. I have another resume. Anna, feel free to add anything that I may have missed from that LinkedIn profile as we go through it. Did I miss anything, Anna, from your perspective? No? All right, we have I just love saying Maximilian because I think that's just a dope name. I think it's Maximiliano, but I just like saying the word Maximilian. I think that's such a dope first name. But Maximiliano, we have, I like this actually pretty clean here at the top, but I don't want to be, we'll go here, first page, education, skills, experience. And it's in Spanish, but I think we get the essence of it. All right, Louis.
Yeah, super European. Like I worked with a lot of people in Italy. Like my girlfriend's Italian. Like I'm very used to the culture of Italy, and I think like the Italian culture should be mirrored into kind of everyone's resumes to somewhat of an extent. The top half of the format of this CV, just so everybody knows, is like very European. Like seeing the email, the profile, the nationality, where they're currently based and their phone number, you'll kind of see that on every profile in Europe, even in the UK or kind of the more westernized countries in Europe. Sorry, just a quick question. Is there an English and a Spanish or Italian version on this resume?
I think he says it's designed for European market, more precisely for Spain. That's why it's in both languages.
As far as I understand, it's in English and then the same content in Spanish.
That's what I thought.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot more sense then. Okay,
yeah.
Okay. So it's really one resume in different formats.
Yeah, I think the fact that we're confused about that is a point in itself. Just segregate like the language at the top. Yes, and we've.
Sorry, guys. I think I pressed the wrong button there. Hope I didn't lose too many people.
Yeah, I really do love bullet points. I think you can, if you do want to write a little bit about what you've been doing and your accomplishments, I think keep it to 2 sentences, maybe 3, and underneath that, you know, let's do some bullet points. I think you've got all the content here. I think you just need some restructuring with some bullet points. And I think this will be yet again a really good resume. I also like where it says lawyer, compliance, AI.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I really like that. Jinisha, anything to add?
Yeah, the branding is solid, right? At the top, it tells you right away what Max, if I may, Max wants to accomplish and is interested in. Like someone commented here, I'd say the same thing, like user support. What does that mean? Why is this important? If it's important at all, then why not tell us a bit more about what you did? But that's probably my North American culture speaking. And do you think, I'd like to get your opinion on this, panelists, do you think we need to explain why Max switched from a career in law to compliance, and why is that important, or why does that make him more why does that give him a comparative advantage?
I think from legal to compliance makes sense, and I think he has a little bit of blurb. But to your point, maybe he can emphasize that in the blurb that he has at the top, where he can really. I think he's kind of gotten the first sentence, but maybe he can go a little bit deeper as to why he's transitioning from legal to compliance. I think it makes sense.
Okay, I'm not a specialist, a CV specialist, but what I would expect to see from a CV is a progress in the career, from down to where I am now. I would like to see that progress. So as long as I see that, it's okay. Of course, a lawyer can be compliance analyst. It's regulations. He has to do with regulations, and he's moving in a specific regulatory area, AML. So to me, it makes sense. But as I said, I'm not a recruiter or a specialist for CVs. But that's my opinion.
I also think that if somebody is asking that question of why would they make the change, that's probably someone that is interested. That's only a question you're probably going to ask if you want to speak with this person.
I think the only point I have is just the font and the spacing. I feel like the font above experience is a little bit different than the font below it, and it kind of throws it off a little bit. So I think maybe just using the font, making sure you use the bold properly is the only real advice I'd have there. I don't know. Do you prefer bullet points or do you prefer? I like bullet points, right? Did you guys say that when I fell off? Okay, I like bullet points, so it's really hard for me to read like the like Instagram style separations. All right. And my chat died when the Zoom went off. If you could send me maybe one more. It's 1 o'clock. It's recorded, so if you have to jump off, completely understand. But if you could send me one more LinkedIn profile and one more resume, and then if Nilu wants to share her resume, because I think she does a really great job, if she's willing to take a little bit of feedback from our expert panel here. Awesome. And this is a great resume because this person actually signed up, I think, even before. Okay, so we have Christine. I believe, is Christine your first name, I believe? I could be wrong.
I'm in.
Christine's your first name though, right? Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so here's the first page. Right into work experience, little career objective, right into work experience. And then we have the second page. Some trainings and workshops, interests and hobbies. And then the references included. And I know in different cultures and different jurisdictions, some people like to include their references right on the resume. Louie, your first thoughts?
Yeah, genuinely, I think it would take some time to really dive into this. I think ultimately there's a lot going on here, and the format is fairly bland. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I think the content is good. There's a lot of mismatches with like the bullet points and where they are on the pages, and there just isn't really a lot of consistency, which is like, to me, really frustrating because it's a really easy thing to do, especially once you've produced such great content. I would really go to like William or somebody else that we've spoken about today and just really mirror their format. I think the content is great, but with that being said, also ask yourself, does this need to be on here? I think there was some stuff towards the bottom of maybe content that hasn't or doesn't need to be on the resume. A bit further down, please, Stephen. I think it was all the way at the bottom.
I think we could take off office assistant, to be quite honest, if they're in crypto as well, right?
Yeah, so do I.
Or sorry, if they're in compliance or I think office assistant doesn't really help them that much.
I think just doing the job titles as like a bullet point, like the time span and the title without any context is perfect. Because you want this person to know that you have been working since 2015. And that's a really good way to do it without wasting space or wasting someone's time. Maybe like the skills and competencies. I mean, no one's going to get to the bottom of this and then read those bullet points after that much content. Trainings and workshops, I wouldn't really be able to comment on this because I'm not exactly sure how important these are or where you're applying. This is something that's probably subjective and maybe something worth keeping on here maybe you guys can answer a bit better here, Jinisha or Anna or Stephen. Maybe if these are really good qualifications, you should put them further towards the top. I know that like I done my CCFC and like a few Chainalysis ones. And if I had a resume, I'd probably put them fairly close towards the top. But yeah, I mean, I think just copy one of the formats from earlier. Williams wasn't really and like you have the content, so it won't take you a lot of time.
William, what are you doing March 15th for our next session? I think it's going to be like, we're just going to go through your resume and have a copy and paste workshop. Jinisha, anything to add?
Yeah, can you show me when, sorry, I'm trying to remember your name, when this individual graduated college?
2017.
Okay, so then I see, I'm just echoing Louie's thoughts here. I see Isaac Entrepreneurship Competition, that's before you graduated, and even account assistants, all of that, I would think is dead weight. And, you know, you're giving somebody more content, but you're taking their time, right? From saying, okay, so you have a Super Bowl ad, which people pay billions, millions of dollars for, and for seconds of an ad, right? So it's not about the length, it's about the quality. And so one overarching theme here with resumes is, are we demonstrating our skills through the words, through the space that we're taking? And you would find listening, participating, Isaac Entrepreneurship, all of that is not demonstrating that you're a good compliance professional, is it? Now, when is it useful? That's a good question Louie asked. So I find that soon after you've graduated, when you don't have other experiences and when you're trying to demonstrate that you've done something without having a full-time job, you've done something meaningful and professional, that's when you use those extracurricular experiences. But now you have so many experiences. There are some bullet points that are just 2 words. Like I think there was sanction screening. That doesn't really demonstrate what your job entailed, right? So I just focus more on the actual experiences and not just on the keywords. So I think I just want to remind everybody, the whole point is, are these words demonstrating what I can do and my unique experience and my expertise? And if they're not so unique, then what's so unique about my character and my thought process and my extracurriculars, like volunteer work in the compliance industry, that make me a good candidate?
I think that's such great points. I want everyone to take a look at Nilu's. I really liked Nilu's resume when I saw it first. So we'll get Louie and Anna and Jinisha what your thoughts are on Nilu's resume.
Yeah, I think this is like 10 out of 10.
That's what I like to hear.
And Nilu, if you could share like maybe where you got this format from or the template, I think it'd be really useful to others. There's actually a resume that I really wanted to share on this call, but unfortunately I couldn't get in touch with the person. But it's kind of this, but 1 page. Granted, the person that I wanted to share the resume has got less experience than Nilu. But like for me, this is like the only exception of like when you want to speak a bit about you as a person is when you can have it in this kind of format. Like it takes up such little space. The education is so relevant. Like these are great certifications. Like I know how great these are, and also hard. Maybe like the expertise on the left could go, but like I think at this point I'm nitpicking for the sake of it. Like this is a great resume.
Your thoughts, Jinisha?
Yeah, it's beautiful to look at, and like everything Nilu does, it's very graceful, and I think that's basically demonstrating what Nilu's characteristics are, that she'd always think of the user experience for the person. Even when she's sending an email, right, she would think about how the person feels. And to me, that shows like great care into everything Nilu presents. I also like how on the left, there is a section on legislative pieces or legislative knowledge that kind of tells me what Nilu has in mind, right, for her next steps in her career. Is something more of a regulatory challenge or something that requires like strategic thinking and process building and so on. So it kind of is an indirect, like a subliminal message. Hey, this is what I'm capable of. And awesome. I like the qualifications at the top.
Yeah, I saw this after going like hundreds of resumes at Bitfinex. I saw this resume and like I remember like messaging Nilu that day and like, where did you get this? How come you got this? So like from everyone, like look at the resumes you saw today. Which one stood out to you? And then imagine your audience is a recruiter, right? So which one stood out to you? Like, and Nilu did this through resume restoration. So resume restoration, I put the link in the chat that Susan posted. So she moved her event to next Tuesday, generously. So they'll be doing a workshop. To be quite honest, I'm a little bit street. I like to get a deal. So if I am looking to update my resume, I could go pay a resume writer. And I do agree you should pay experts, but I would equally pay a Jinisha or a Nilu a reduced amount to get their specific knowledge about crypto or compliance and get them to like sit with me and talk, where you can spend hours with them maybe versus like a resume writer. So I think both options are great. Pay the experts if you need it. Like if you need it, if you're close, if you're willing and you just need someone to kind of review it and give their insights, then I would look to Nilu and Jinisha, who really don't advertise their services, but they're there. Like if you give everyone, hey, I have $100, most times they probably say they'll do it for free just because you respected their time. And I think that's a little bit of a hack for those that are trying to get help. Christina, if you could send me yours and we can finish off with that. But I just really want to hope that this session was really eye-opening for a lot of you. It was for me, like to be quite honest, I didn't know what Louie was going to say. I know Louie is the person that if you've been on other sessions, he's the one that told me that women don't respond. Or maybe Louie, tell us a little bit about your experience with women and applying for jobs, because I think this will help us as we go in to confidence sessions and more storytelling next week on International Women's Day.
Yeah, I think Jinisha like kind of started how I would start this off earlier with like ego. Unfortunately, stereotypically, and I'm speaking out of data here, women don't really have, or at least, non-white men don't particularly have the confidence of, applying for jobs, or at least going for jobs where they don't qualify for every single skill. I forget the exact data that I told Stephen, but like I'm very into this kind of stuff, especially being the only recruiter at LUKSO, and it's my job to attract this kind of talent now before we get too big and we're like, hey guys, we have no diversity. One of the really important things is wording on what you're looking for in job descriptions. Whilst maybe I don't hire every single person from applicants, it's very important that people that work with a company can at least identify that we're making a conscious effort. People that do apply can also, see that we are making a conscious effort, or at least be like, hey, why do you guys word it in such a way? And this is something I was taught by, yet again, Hannah Spellmeyer, who was the VP or Director of Recruiting at Chainalysis and now works at Yuga Labs. I learned this from her, and I believe like when a woman applies for a role, the data shows that they'll apply for a job that they have, pretty much like 95% of the experience for, whereas a man would apply for a job where they only have, 30 to 50%, which is outrageous. And a way to really kind of mitigate this from happening is how you ask for experience. If you're like, this person needs this, the woman is going to instantly say no, or like, at least as data says, we are going to see way less females applying for this role. However, if you word it as in 1 year, you'll be successful if you've ... or like anything, along these lines really helps ... just really trying to not ask direct responsibility questions. You need to understand that if you can do a job, you shouldn't be applying for it anyway. You should only be applying for roles where you need to go above and beyond and learn stuff that you don't already know. And with that combined with the data behind these applicants, it's a really touchy subject, and it is honestly avoidable as well.
Look at it like dating apps, right? When the guy says he's 6 foot and enjoys nature, it really means he's 5'10", and one day him and his friends did their fantasy football league draft outside in the park. Like, we have to really be honest on what we're seeing. And I know as a recruiter, I'm seeing the stuff they're asking for. It's like, you don't know what that stuff is. You don't even know what half of that stuff means because you copied and pasted it from the person that created that job description 3 or 4 years ago. And B, you're not getting that at your budget. So let's be quite honest about it. So I think what you have to when I look at I look at that even when they say remote or when they say US based, that doesn't apply to me. I still reach out to them and ask them if they're willing to think about remote opportunities, especially if they have remote other roles. Even just me asking them, it's like, okay, at least I've gotten that. Maybe they didn't think about it. Maybe they made a mistake and they put US remote only. They just meant to put remote only. I think it's a great conversation starter. And then, hey, when they get 0 people in, Mississippi, like wherever they're looking, where it's like 4 compliance professionals there, and they start to look remotely, maybe they'll keep you in mind for something like that as well. And Jinisha, to end us all, Christina, sorry, we didn't get to yours. Jinisha's going to end us off with a question. And we might do this again, to be quite honest, because I think I got a lot of value. If Louie, Jinisha, and some others, maybe William, are going to come back for session 2, we might do one of these again. Jinisha, why don't you finish us off with the question?
Marlon's question. I was hoping someone else could answer it.
What was the question? Sorry, I didn't see.
CVs with interdisciplinary experience, how do you remove an entire section of professional experience without getting the question, what did you do between years X to Y? I just have a quick comment. I did do that. I've had 3 different careers, and the way I do it is I call myself an entrepreneur. So every time I switch industry, I would say I switched from being an entrepreneur or a consultant to this because I found a specific problem I wanted to fix, which means I'm not eliminating my experiences, but I'm only highlighting in my unrelated job the experiences that might be relevant, like leadership skills, like negotiating or speaking to executives, etc.
There's nothing more impressive than someone that takes 1 step back for 2 steps forward. And I think that is the epitome of how you get into Web3. Like if someone says like, hey, I love crypto, I have Bitcoin and I have a ledger and I know what a private key is, it's actually a red flag. If someone has taken a step back for 3 months and like maybe taken a hit on their pay or had to, really rationalize their living because they want to learn, they want to take all of these qualifications, or even like free Solidity courses, like that is, it shows such a drive where we can easily compensate for lack of experience. So yeah, completely mirror what Jinisha said.
Louie, you sent me a message like half an hour ago about applying for jobs. Do you want to kind of leave us with some parting recruitment insights on applying for jobs using LinkedIn? This is you have 5 minutes free. This is you to finish us off. This
is really where I feel like I have like very unique perspectives. In fact, Stephen, I think this could be a whole other session. Maybe we could have a session called, getting jobs without a resume, or like applying for jobs without a resume. All we've done is spoke about, resumes aren't really relevant anymore until you actually get to, being hired. I think we could dedicate half an hour to an hour to just really explaining why that is. And also how to structure messages, who to message, when to message them, what to put in the content. This in itself is more important than a resume.
Like I see Jinisha's eyes light up. That's the one she wants to run with. That is definitely it. Can you give like a couple tips for those people now? They're like, oh no, I have to wait for another session. Give us a little couple tips like right away that they can start implementing today. They have a decent resume. Like William has a decent resume. Everyone's raving about it. What can William do today if he was looking to get a job?
Yeah, well, like first of all, don't attach the resume onto the message. You don't want to show all of your cards. And like, if someone's interested, they are going to respond saying, hey, do you have a resume? That will most likely be the most common response you'll get, which is a response. The high level here is all you want is a response, whether it's good, bad, constructive. It doesn't matter. A response is amazing. There is no better place to message than LinkedIn. There is tons of email addresses. Work domains can vary. There isn't one format to find someone's email address. LinkedIn is the most powerful. I would then say, if you really want to get like technical and Web3 focused, Discord and Twitter is phenomenal. I can't even believe how amazing Twitter is. Be super forward. Also, I would really like emphasize here that self-belief is very important. Almost enough self-belief that it can come off maybe as like somewhat of naivety. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't want someone to be like overly egotistical and not subjective and not opinionated, or like very opinionated. We used to say like strong convictions loosely held. And I think that's a really nice way to put it. But take a step back, think, actually identify what you want to do. I always say bet on the jockey and not the horse. And with that said, maybe your job is amazing and you're just not happy because of where you work. it's very rarely your profession. You know, our brain tricks us into thinking that it is, but it really rarely isn't. I would quickly identify where I want to work. Web3 is a big space. Try to pick a niche, a vertical, you know, like what I done with Chainalysis, and then with LUKSO, I went from a massive crypto compliance, you know, blockchain analysis company, and then I chose like an under the radar layer one, and they were like two very conscious decisions. And then after identifying what smaller vertical, you can also mirror messages a lot easier. Like if you're along the lines of like, I really want to work for a company who are working on, you know, zero knowledge right now, or like ZK, there's only a few companies doing that kind of stuff. The company doesn't have to be actively hiring. In fact, don't reach out to companies only because they're actively hiring. Find the company where you want to work, find the person you need to speak to, and speak to them. They will open a job if someone can add value. And that is as simple as what it is, especially if it's revenue generating or one that mitigates a lot of risk. There's so much more to add. The message format is vitally important. You know, you don't want to overspeak nor underspeak. It needs to be catchy. You can't bore them. Yeah, there's a lot to dive into.
I love that. And maybe next time we could get people to send some of the messages that they're sending people, hiring managers, recruiters, connectors. I think a lot of those LinkedIn messages, they're really losing out on opportunities that they could connect with people and build, as you said, get that response versus just like the copy and paste message where they're saying, hey, Joseph, when they're speaking to me. Jinisha, last thoughts, and then we'll go to Anna for her last thoughts.
Just want to say great credit to you, Stephen, for curating such an experience for people. You also think a lot about user experience when you craft these events. So thank you. I wholeheartedly agree with everything Louie said. I've learned from all of my rejections in the past decade that this whole process is not a rendezvous, it's a marriage, and that's how we need to treat it, which means it's a conscious decision. You wouldn't just go on a dating platform and, you know, marry just about anybody. So why should you waste a single second approaching a company you don't resonate with just because you happen to be in the market? And so everything changes when you decide who you want to marry, because then instead of applying to 50 companies, now you only have 5 companies. And then your messaging changes because now you spent more time researching the company and the individuals and what they actually stand for and how you resonate with them. And I think that's the piece that Louie is talking about, right? The message and the approach and the formatting. And lastly, we wouldn't just give up on a marriage partner we absolutely believe in if the time isn't right for them. So maybe building a thoughtful long-term relationship with the company we truly care about. And that's my story with Scotiabank and Kraken. I've had more than 50 calls before I got my job at Scotiabank. I pretty much knew everybody I was working with before I even got the job. Same with Kraken. And so it really does work to think of this as a long-term romantic relationship.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Go ahead.
It took me 2 years to get into LUKSO. Like, I was working at Chainalysis. I wasn't really looking to leave, but I really just wanted to work with Fabian, like our co-founder. And bearing in mind, there's 60 people at LUKSO. We're not a small company. Maybe like a year and a half of messages. Spoke to multiple people, then eventually was referred. And then after that, it was a very quick process. And like even Chainalysis, like I sent a message to Hannah. I spoke to like 11 people, and I ended up with more than one job offer. Like, you know, this is all from proactive outreach. Yeah, I really can't express enough how important this is. I voiced recently, actually on my LinkedIn, ironically, that I, you know, from a very young age, have been very impulsive with like somewhat of ADHD, where I was diagnosed pretty young. And my thesis to life has always been impulsivity. I've always attacked things very fast, like whether it was, you know, exams in school or work or even recruitment. Applying for a role is the only thing in the world that I don't rush. Like, I will really sit back and I will spend 5 hours finding one company to then write a message, which takes me 5 minutes. And whilst that may seem like a waste of time, it isn't. Like, it's the only thing where I would emphasize more than anything to take so much time applying for a job, especially if you're going to message them. Like, don't burn that bridge. It's the only thing where you should take extreme time to crack into a door. Like, even if it takes you a week to message 3 companies, that's better than applying for 100 jobs.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. Anna, and you guys are creating some amazing sound bites for my posts. These are amazing. Like, these are really thoughtful conversations. Anna, finish us off. And thank you for being here, to be quite honest. Thank you for helping out. It means a lot to have people as busy as you doing as much as you are to bring professionals onto these calls.
So what I would advise, I would say a few things about LinkedIn, creating your LinkedIn profile. You need to create it in a way and think what you want to be known for. What skills do you have that make you suitable for a specific job? So we need to take a bit from the side of the potential employer. What does the employer expect to see? And draft our LinkedIn profile in such a way. And of course, create content. Attract employers instead of chasing them.
Awesome. Nilu, finish us off. Put you on the spot, my friend. Finish us off. You're mentoring hundreds of people. Tell us one final thought for, you've talked to people that just lost their job. What's one final thought you can give people that might be struggling right now, or just feel like they're just frustrated with this process of looking for work, which can be ultimately frustrating, to be quite honest?
Put yourself out there. That's the thing. I think when you're just disheartened with everything, you kind of withdraw, and I find so many people have done that. It's like connecting, and it really is like, find that one person. It doesn't need to be a big network. I think a lot of people are focused on just adding those connections, and I was like, you know what, you meet one right person and that can change everything. I guess I'd attribute that to you, Stephen. I mean, you're kind of that one person for me. I know how my own career has changed. So it's like, find your person and just like work with them. It doesn't need to be a big network of thousands of people. I think everyone's just trying to connect with everybody. But put yourself out there.
I think for introverts, extroverts, I think if you're not working, you should be on every single session that's in March. First of all, there's so many to choose from, every different time zone. International Women's Day is going to be all day worth of events. And I think, to Nilu's point, is this really, what are you there for? You're not just there for subject matter expertise. You're there to listen to a Jinisha that might resonate with you. Or even Louie, like Chainalysis, for example. I have like 75 connections at Chainalysis alone. I've spoken to everybody and anyone that will listen to me at Chainalysis for the last 5 years, including Louie, and just having random conversations. So when it came time to them, picking me up for the podcast or the training, it was super easy because I had 14 people that I was already talking to. I just listened for whoever's listening to my idea and say, hey, that's a good idea. So I think you really need to, if you want to work with a company, if you want to be, and there's other ways to work with them without having to work 9 to 5 with them. There's other projects you can work with them. All these companies have projects and events. So to Louie's point, he found someone or a company he wants to work with. He chose to go over there, but there might have been ways that he could have created joint events between Chainalysis and LUKSO, etc. So find those companies. I think what happens is we're going too wide. We want to apply to all these companies, and we want to apply only to Binance because we know they're hiring, but you really don't believe in any of Binance's ethos or Kraken's ethos. And I think that will make your job search super easy, because if you find that those 3-5 companies and you put it all into it, I guarantee you're going to resonate with them. If you resonate with them, they'll probably resonate with you. That's kind of my final thoughts. Thank you, everyone. I know it's lunch hour. I know we always go over, but hell, why not, right? If you're here, you might as well enjoy it. And I think we'll do another one of these sessions. I think what we probably could do in one of these upcoming sessions is just to go through each person and just have them talk, look at their resume. And I think people like Jinisha, Louie, Anna could pull out what those key attributes are from them that they can't see. Because we were able to do it with Neza, we were able to do it with Willie. We're able to see those attributes and characteristics that make you wonderful that you're not able to see because you're busy updating your resume. So I think that would actually be a really fun event, is really pulling out those characteristics and maybe having a resume writer or career coach to kind of help you format that into a useful resume. Because every resume I've seen, I've spoken to all of you, they don't even do you justice. Do not do you justice. And if that is the case, then you should definitely be doing content. Because if you are way better in person speaking to other people or working on projects, then you might as well do content. And then that way, if people see your resume, it's like, oh, who cares what the resume says? I already know Neza. I already know Christine. I already know Nilu. I know everything I need to know about them. Let's get them on board. Let's put the resume through the HR. And that's exactly how I think Louie explained it. they're not looking at your resume by the time they're ready to hire you. That resume is just a formality. It just has to go there for administrative purposes. But for people like William, that resume, and Nilu, those resumes can get you into a lot more doors without even creating content, but I still think you should have the content to back it up. Thank you, everyone. Recording, most likely will be 2, maybe 3 days I'll get by Saturday. And then you'll see those jobs. If you are in the US, if you are looking for a senior compliance officer, big exchange, message me by tomorrow. The job will go live probably Friday, Monday next week. And you know what happens once you post it on LinkedIn? I'm not going to be reading every single message. So if you are that person, definitely a really great opportunity. And we've hired the CCO there, so we know what we're working with. It's a really cool team. Check out the Binance job as well. If you are DeFi, kind of Ethereum expert tracer, hit me up and I'll put you right in contact. Louie, do you have any jobs for us? You got anything non-technical for our people, or maybe even technical for our people?
It's actually a great point. Not right now, but as we creep up to mainnet, I'm trying to not give too much alpha because I'm under a lot of NDAs. But as we creep up to mainnet, there'll be a lot of complaints, a lot, especially post. There's going to be a lot of kind of auditing that we will be undergoing and are undergoing, but it's a lot more kind of like a technical smart contract side. One big thing is like the bridge. Right now, our token is wrapped in Ethereum based on ERC20, ironically. And eventually it will move over to our own mainnet, which will just be, Lux without the E at the end. And like that bridge is massive for anyone that understands the scarcity of what can go into that, if it is hacked or breached. So there'll be like tons of compliances as we get bigger. We actually just hired a general counsel. Maybe someone that I can speak with today in ETH Denver and try to find out a bit more from.
And that's a hack right there. Anytime someone hires a legal counsel or a fraud person, AML and compliance are like direct hires after that. That's the framework. If they're taking serious is when they hire legal counsel. Thank you, everyone. Friday, Jinisha, Louie, if you're available, let's jump on like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and let's hash out some of the rest of these resumes that we may have missed and kind of give some feedback or just general overall feedback. Thank you, everyone. Recordings will be out in 2 days. And please like, share, comment, go on LinkedIn, fill the LinkedIn with all your lovely, amazing thoughts about this session and others. And I want to see everyone there next week on all these sessions, including ours. But make sure you get out there next week and the week after. March is the time because springtime hiring is going to be coming. So make sure you're getting out there, whether it's in your jurisdiction or not. I think it's important to get out there and meet some of these people. Most of the events we see next week are going to be international people. All right. Thank you, Jinisha, Louie, Anna, Nilu. Thank you, William, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.